We're here with Fayette girls head basketball coach Mike James after a 40-33 win over Marceline on Pink Out Night. And Coach, I think the start of the game really kind of dictated the pace of the rest of the game, where you all had that 15-0 run there in the first quarter. Just talk about how this effort was much different compared to the first time that you all played Marceline.
Well, in some ways it was similar because I thought we played very similar on defense. I thought we controlled the boards for the most part. We did a better job tonight, probably early, controlling the boards than we did the first time. But the difference was I thought our offense was functioning a little bit better. They were running something we hadn't seen much. They were kind of boxing and wanting and doubling Ellie low. And our rest of our kids just kind of stepped up. I thought we moved the ball better. I thought some other girls made shots. We didn't try to force the action. We kind of took what the defense was giving us. And it worked out for us tonight. And then a couple of girls hit some shots outside that kind of loosened it up. And then, one thing that's been good about us all year has been consistent. It's been our defense. And, we're consistently, whether we play zone or man, doing a pretty good job of pressuring the ball and getting in gaps and keeping them off the glass for the most part.
And, again, we had talked about how Kiana Bush suffered an ACL injury last night in a JV game against Harrisburg. And, again, we kind of talked about how that was a blow because she was one of your first players off the bench. But this is one of those golden opportunities for Haley Polis to really step up and have a big game as she did. As we talked, that three-pointer she hit in the first quarter really started that run. Ended up with 10 points, and we saw a much better shooting performance out of her compared to a lot of her previous varsity games.
Well, she's just getting comfortable. It's very hard to come in the middle of the year in a new system, new state, new school. It's very hard for a 14-year-old kid, and I've been impressed with her. She's a hard worker. And it was just evident tonight when, losing Kiana was devastating for us and a player that's going to be very hard to replace. But that's what good teams do. You hit a bump in the road and someone's got to step up. And tonight, I thought several girls did. I thought a combination of Smikowski, Thornton, and, of course, Polis kind of made up for that loss. And I thought they all did good things at different times. But obviously, scoring the ball the way they were defending us, it was going to be important for somebody to knock down some shots from the outside. And we're kind of getting comfortable and more confident that Haley Polis can do that. And tonight, for the first time in varsity, she's done that now. In JV, she's done it very consistently. And tonight in varsity, she was ready for the moment. And so she was big for us, I thought. And I thought she kind of set a tone. I thought the girls kind of fed off her a little bit.
And again, we always talk about how it's hard for these girls to really put together a great four quarters. And I think that was, again, the case tonight. That second quarter built a 22-8 lead where it almost seemed like it was over at that point. And Marceline just edges their way back, and the game cuts down to 22-17 at one point. And I know it's frustrating, but again, the girls came out in the third quarter, held them scoreless for the first 5 minutes, and it seemed like it was a whole new ball game when they came back out.
We got in some foul trouble, and then we just didn't execute our press breaker, our press offense, the way we were capable of doing it, and we made some mistakes and allowed them to kind of get back in the ball game, which we got to eliminate that, and that's something as we grow we have to get better at, and I think we will. But for the most part, I thought we played pretty well. We're still trying to develop kind of a killer instinct where we get a team on the ropes. We just got to go ahead and finish them, and I think that's going to come with confidence in time. Every time we get a victory, you can see it growing a little bit. They're starting to believe a little bit more. There's not that nervousness and scaredness that I felt early in the year before the games. We kind of get out of the locker room with some confidence about us here lately. And until we put together, like you say, a great four quarters, which I thought Santa Fe was pretty close, that game. But until we do that, it's going to be hard to do it because we don't have the experience yet to do that.
And I know we kind of talked about how Ellie only had 4 points and Samantha only had 2, and a lot of that was just because they were doing things aside from scoring to make contributions. But if you can get a combined 6 points from them and still win, we talked about how that's really impressive for the rest of the team. You have Caitlin also got 10 points, Haley Brunkhorst with 6, and Kenny Johnson with 6. It seems like we're starting to see this team come together and put together great team efforts.
Yeah, we're starting to get a little bit more balanced. We're starting to get a little bit more out of everybody, which is what we have to have. And that's kind of the way I like to coach. I wouldn't want to be one player dominant unless the one player is just phenomenal. But if we're balanced, I think it's better for us. And I was happy to see that for older girls because we have leaned on the two young girls quite a bit for our scoring. And for tonight, they give Marceline credit. They wouldn't allow Ellie to score. And then Sam Reed just, one of those nights where she got some open looks and they just didn't fall. So for Kenzie Thornton to come in big, Haley Polis, Kenya Johnson, Haley Brunkhorst, Caitlin Wells, it just shows, I think, growth. by our team.
And again, this win moves your record to 12-7 on the year, 5-1 or 4-2 in conference play. Now we're talking about another huge game that's going to have district implications against New Franklin, who we talked about earlier tonight, won 44-38 over Sturgeon, an upset at home. Obviously, there's a few things going into this game where you see great matchups. You're going to see Reed against Huntley. You're going to see Johnson against Boggs. Just kind of give us a quick preview of what you expect to see in that game.
It should be a really good ball game. On their floor, they're going to play very well. We know that. They've got a lot of tradition behind them. They got a good young group, kind of like we have. They've got a group that's getting some success, kind of like we have. And it's going to be, I think, a pretty intense ball game. I think, you got in Howard County, you got Glasgow kind of maybe a little bit above everybody else, and then you got two other pretty good little teams. And so it's kind of a way to prove who's better in this county. And right now, we're probably third out of those two, and all three pretty good basketball teams. I think it's going to be a game where we have to get off to a good start. We have to control the boards, and we've got to get something going inside, and we have to go right at their bigs, because if we don't, we live at the 3-point line. I don't know if we're going to have enough to beat a good New Franklin team.